A man walks through a glass door. He's hungry, really hungry. He pays one price at the counter, doesn't even look at the number twice. Then he walks into a room built entirely to test his limits. Steak, glistening under heat lamps. Shrimp, stacked in silver trays. Pizza, pasta, sushi, cakes stacked 3 layers high. He fills a plate, eats it, goes back, fills another, eats that too, goes back again. Nobody stops him. Nobody counts. Nobody cares. And that's when the question hits you. If he can eat as much as he wants, how does this restaurant not go bankrupt? One price, unlimited food. That shouldn't work, but it does. Buffets have survived for decades in cities all over the world, feeding people who walk in starving and leave stuffed. So either the math is broken, or the secret isn't in the food at all. It's hiding somewhere else. And once you see it, you'll never look at a buffet the same way again. Here's the biggest misconception people have about buffets. They imagine the restaurant is betting against them. One customer, one stomach, one all-out war to eat more than they paid for. But that's not the bet at all. The restaurant doesn't need every single customer to be profitable. It needs the average customer to be profitable. Picture 3 people walking in tonight. One eats like it's a competition. Plates piled with shrimp and steak. Call it $25 worth of food. Another barely finishes a small plate of pasta and a salad, maybe $10. A third lands somewhere in the middle, $15. Individually, one of them just beat the house. But add them together, divide by 3, and suddenly the story changes completely. The buffet isn't gambling against one stomach, it's calculating the behavior of an entire crowd. And crowds, it turns out, are far more predictable than any single appetite. But averages are only the first layer. The real machine goes much deeper. Walk into any buffet and notice something strange. The first things you see are rarely the expensive ones. Bread, rice, pasta, salad, fried appetizers, pizza. Cheap, filling, impossible to resist when you're starving and moving fast. By the time most people reach the steak or the crab legs, their plate, and their stomach, is already halfway full. This isn't an accident. It's menu engineering, the same discipline restaurants everywhere use to shape what you order, or in this case, what you grab. Layout, lighting, plate size, even the walking path through the room can quietly nudge decisions. None of it is sinister. It's simply design, built around how people actually behave when given unlimited choice. The buffet looks unlimited, but your choices are being quietly guided the entire time, and that guidance connects directly to something even more important, the real cost hiding behind the food. Here's something most customers never think about. The price on the sign has almost nothing to do with what the food actually costs to make. A buffet might charge $30 or $40 a head. That doesn't mean $30 or $40 of ingredients sit on your plate. The real number depends on sourcing, portion sizes, waste, and, critically, what customers actually choose to eat. This is why the menu is built like a balancing act, not a random spread of dishes. Inexpensive, filling foods sit alongside moderate dishes and a handful of premium items: steak, seafood, prime cuts. The premium items pull people through the door. They're the reason for the price tag, the reason for the photos on social media. But it's often the cheaper dishes, quietly filling plates first, that protect the math behind the scenes. The expensive food sells the dream. The inexpensive food pays the bills. And there's a whole second business happening at the drink station that most people walk right past. Beverages don't play by the same rules as food. A fountain soda, a coffee, a bottled drink. These often carry a completely different cost structure than a tray of shrimp. Add drinks to the bill, and the average amount a customer spends can climb, without the kitchen cooking a single extra dish. In places where alcohol is on the menu, that gap can widen even further. It's a quiet second revenue stream, running parallel to the food, rarely noticed by the person holding the cup. But even with cheap starches filling plates and profitable drinks filling glasses, there's one enemy that keeps every buffet owner up at night: waste. That tray of prime rib sitting under the heat lamp isn't free just because nobody's eating it yet. Every dish on that line already cost money before a single customer touched it. Ingredients, prep time, refrigeration, the gas or electricity keeping it warm, the staff cooking, restocking and eventually clearing it away. If it goes in the trash, all of that cost goes with it. So successful buffets don't guess, they forecast. A Monday lunch crowd looks nothing like a Friday dinner rush. Weekends behave differently than weekdays. Holidays throw the pattern off entirely. Managers lean on historical sales data, what sold last month, last year, last holiday, to estimate how much of each dish to prepare tonight. The sharper the forecast, the smaller the leak. Every tray that comes back half empty is a tiny financial leak. Multiply that by hundreds of customers, night after night, and the leak becomes a flood. But waste isn't the only hidden variable. There's something else eating into the margins, something that has nothing to do with food at all. A buffet isn't just selling food, it's selling a seat for a window of time. If one group camps at a table for 3 hours, that table might generate far less revenue than if 2 or 3 different groups had rotated through the same window. Lunch and dinner often run on entirely different economics, different crowd sizes, different price points, different appetites. That's part of why some buffets price lunch lower than dinner, why weekday pricing can differ from weekend pricing, why some concepts quietly build in time limits or reservation windows during peak hours. The unlimited food isn't actually unlimited time. And once you understand time, the next piece of the puzzle falls into place. The people actually sitting in those seats. Every buffet has a hidden hero, and it isn't the chef. It's the average customer. Some people walk in starving, ready to make the meal a personal challenge. Others eat 2 small plates and call it a night. Some load up on crab legs and prime rib. Others stick to pasta and salad. Some order 3 refills of soda. Others drink water. None of these behaviors matter much on their own. What matters is that across a room full of strangers, they even out. One customer can beat the buffet. But the buffet was never designed around one customer. It was designed around all of them, together. Which is exactly why the phrase on the sign outside is so much more powerful than it looks. Say the words, "all you can eat," and something shifts in the brain before a single plate is touched. People don't necessarily eat more because their body needs more food. They eat more because they feel like they're winning. One price, no surprises, no mental math with every bite. Compare that to ordering à la carte, an appetizer here, an entree there, a side, a dessert, a drink. Every single item quietly adding to a bill that keeps climbing. The buffet erases that friction completely. The moment the customer has already paid, a new thought creeps in. I already paid for this. I might as well get my money's worth. And ironically, That exact mindset is often what keeps people eating past the point of hunger, doing the restaurant's forecasting work for it, one plate at a time. Which leads to the biggest myth of all, the one most people never question. Here's the real twist. The buffet's advantage was never just about buying cheap ingredients. It's about predictability at scale, buying in bulk, standardizing recipes, building routines around historical sales data, learning, meal after meal, exactly how a crowd of strangers tends to behave. That kind of scale changes the math entirely, compared to a small restaurant cooking dozens of individual dishes to order. But scale is not a magic shield. It only works if the operation stays controlled, if waste, labor, and rent stay in check, and if enough customers keep walking through the door. Which raises an uncomfortable question the industry doesn't advertise. Buffets don't have an unbeatable formula. Some fail. Many have closed. Rising food costs can quietly wreck a menu that used to work. Expensive rent, thin staffing, slow nights, a run of customers who all happen to love the crab legs. Any of it can tip the balance. Poor forecasting leads to waste. Waste eats margin. Theft, equipment breakdowns, food safety requirements. They all add cost with no extra revenue attached. And consumer habits shift. What worked a decade ago doesn't always work today. All you can eat is not a guarantee of profit. It's a balancing act, one bad month away from tipping the wrong way. Which brings everything back to the person standing at the counter, plate in hand, no idea what they've actually walked into. The customer thinks they're paying for unlimited food. They're not. They're paying for a system, food, convenience, variety, experience, and a price tag with no surprises. All of it engineered around how people, on average, actually eat. The buffet doesn't need to stop you from eating more. It only needs to understand how people eat on average. So the next time you walk into an all-you-can-eat buffet, remember, the food may be unlimited, but the business behind your plate is anything but.